Hello there. Today, I will explain to you JavaScript fundamentals. First, we will learn about how to create variables in JavaScript. Then we will learn data types, mathematical operations, taking decisions, and logical operations, switch statement. So there is a lot to cover. I know the course is going to be quite long, but you will cover big part of the fundamentals. The only thing you need is a Visual Studio Code editor or any code editor of your choice. So let me share my screen and let's begin. Okay, I open VS Code and only thing I have done, I just created an empty folder. So I go and open that folder. Fundamentals folder. And what I will do next is just going to create a plain HTML, index.html file, okay? So let's do that, index.html. And there is this exclamation mark, enter, and I got some boilerplate code. Now, the second thing I will do is I'm going to create a script.js file, and I will attach this file to the HTML. So that way I can use the browser to execute my JavaScript code. Now let's open the VS Code with live server. So I right click on the index.html. By the way, I have the automatic save. So if you don't have, you must save first, okay? So let's open this, open live server. And let's check if the script.js file is connected, if everything is clicking. So I'm using the console.log function to check, to print the things to the console. So what is the console is the page that open in the browser. I right click, inspect, and go to the console, and there it is, the hello world. So all is connecting, all is working. So this means that I can just console.log my JavaScript here and see the result. Now, what I would do is I would do this half-half, just like so. So we can have the both. And okay, and let's begin. Let's first speak about what is variables, okay? What is variable regardless of JavaScript? Now, the reason that we have variables, we somehow need to hold data in the computer memory so we can take it when we need it, right? So basically the idea of creating variable is to allocate some space in the memory in order to store data. And every programming language out there has its own rules when it comes to creating a variable. In JavaScript, rule of thumb is a keyword and name of the variable, then the assignment operator, and then the value. So let's create one. And one of the keywords to create a variable, that one of the first things you might see out there is the var keyword. So we will use the var keyword. As you see, the environment, JS environment recognized it and it's blue, and create a variable name, just so, and city, and let's give it a value. And let's give it a value of a text. Texts are like strings, okay? We call it strings. And whenever you are having a text, a string, you should put it inside of quotation marks. It can be double or single quotation marks. I'm going to use the double quotation mark here. And let's say Istanbul. Okay. Now, if I console.log the city, I should see it in the console. So what we can get from here, first, I apply my formula. What was the formula? The variable keyword. To create a variable, I need a keyword, and this keyword here is the var, and then I need a name to store the data, and the city is doing this job. And we have the assignment operator. This equality sign that you know from math is an assignment operator here. And the job of the assignment operator is to take the value on the right side and assign it basically to the left side. So, and Istanbul is our value. So it is now associated with the city. Okay. And this is one way of creating a variable in JavaScript. And there are another keywords, there are another way of creating variables. So the other keyword you can use in JavaScript is the let keyword. And now let's create let country, Turkey. Okay, now if I just console.log the country and Turkey is there, well, we have the value and everything is in the console, so it is working. We created another variable, this time by using the let keyword. And there is another keyword out there, and the strings, the text are not the only values you can store. Of course, we can store numbers as well. The numbers are, and the numbers are not going to be the only. We will see on the way what kind of data you can store more. But let's store a number and let's create a variable with a different way, this time by using the const keyword. And with the const keyword and birth year, let's create a variable. Did you pay attention how I am writing the birth year here? Actually, let me just go by all the birth, the word birth. And whenever I start, I'm starting with the lowercase. And then whenever I begin to a new word, I go by the capital. That is called camel casing. And in JavaScript, when we are creating a variable, we use the camel casing, okay? That is a convention. Now, I store 1990. When we are writing the numbers, we don't need anything additional. We just write the number. So if I go and console.log the birth here, I'm going to see 1990. Okay, it's there. That's great. But now you might be asking yourself, why do we have three different keywords? Because the formula stays the same, what is changing is the keyword. So there must be something, right? Like something different between them. Yes, it is. Before we get into the difference between the let and const, I will speak about the var keyword. Well, var keyword was there since the JavaScript is created. So it is the old-fashioned way of creating a variable, okay? But because the language is grow and it is right now is giving, you know, doing much more than what it started for, on the way, we have some additions. So in new JavaScript, with the new JavaScript ES6, we got the let and const keywords introduced to the language because var was basically creating issues. Don't think about those issues right now. It will be more obvious to you after you learn JavaScript in object-oriented level, okay? But try not to use the var keyword. There is nothing wrong, but it's better to use the let and const. And the difference between let and const is, now let's just reassign the country, okay? I decided, for example, to change the value of the country. So basically, if I do that, country and Germany, and if I console.log the country now, you are going to see in the console the Germany, okay? So no problem. You see, you can just reassign a value and it will just change like that. But let's do the same with the const. like I decided to change the birth year, reassign the birth year. So reassign the birth year to 1991. If we do that and put in the console that you are actually already seeing it, there is an error. It's good to have errors, believe it or not. It's a good practice to know what the error means. So, and how to read an error. We get them all the time. Uncount type error, assignment to constant variable, and you are getting the line number. Line number can be a little bit tricky. In this case, it's going to give you the exact line where the error is, but don't buy it, because sometimes the line number is not showing exactly where the error is. Here it says now line 6, yes, and she's not happy. We are reassigning the birth year. So the difference between let and const, the variables you are creating with the let keyword is reassignable, but the variables you are basically creating with the const keyword are not. Okay, so this is the difference. If you are sure, and actually what we are doing is we are trying to use the create the variables with the const as much as we can, because you want to be safe. But and there are some cases that you cannot avoid using let. So in those cases, you are going to use the let keyword, but try to create your variables with the const. Okay, that's being said, I hope why we have the variables and how JavaScript handles to creation of the variables is clear to you. Now let's move on, if everything is clear, to the types, data types basically. Well, in JavaScript, we have actually 7 data types, but in the beginning, I want you to focus on 3, okay, the most important. So my idea of teaching is to teach the most important things at first, the things that you will use most, and then start applying, because learning a programming language is like any other thing, is nothing like any other practices. And you might be reading a book from a website, some information, and you might be thinking, oh, I understand it. It's everything is clear. No, everything is clear if you are able to apply it afterwards. So it's better, don't get loose into the details, learn some, apply some, and then come back and learn some more and apply more. That's what how I taught myself coding, and that's what worked with me and most of my students. So now you already know 2 data types I already mentioned. We said string, like the texts are called as strings, right? Okay, string. And then what we have, the numbers, right? Like I just assign another type is numbers. And the third most important in the beginning is the Boolean, okay? And what is a Boolean data type? Let's speak about that. Well, basically, you are going to create a Boolean variable, just as you created anything to store the number or a string. So let's create something, because this is depends on the person, like JavaScript is fun variable, and assign it to true. So right now I have a Boolean variable. The type of the JavaScript is Boolean. And the Boolean value can have only 2 values. It can be true or false. Okay, so this is our third data type that we must understand and focus in the beginning. And at that point, if you feel like you will mix the type of the variable, like if it is a number, if it is a string, you can use the type of operator of the JavaScript in order to check the types. So basically you can say that console.log and type of space JavaScript is fun. Now I still get this error. I need to turn it off. So that's what I'm going to do. I shall not reassign to a constant variable. And as you see, line 15, and let me actually take this a little bit up. So it's going to be a Boolean. Okay, you can basically use the type of operator like so to check the types of anything you are confused or you need to. Okay, I hope the data types are clear too as well. Now is the next, like, let's move on to, let's speak about the basic operators. Now, when I say like so, like basic operators, it might be feel a little bit like what's going on, but the operations, basically, if you know how to use an online calculator, that's how JavaScript handles the operators. And with operators, what we mean, like the summation, subtraction, division, this kind of mathematical operators. Okay, so now basically if we just do like so, like we use the plus sign and two numbers, JavaScript is going to add them up like a basic math. And I'm just going to write here the console.log just to show you the, at the moment you write to the code editor, the JavaScript is handling it. So as you see, the result is here. So this is how JavaScript makes the summation. You just write the plus sign and put two numbers if you want the things to go normal. By the way, we can use the plus sign to for between two strings to text as well, but there of course we won't have a mathematical like operations. We will see what we will have when we are handling the strings. Okay, so this is 3 plus 4, and if we want to obviously make a subtraction, we just put the minus sign, and multiplication you can imagine. So this is not the hardest part. But there is like one operator, and it is the percentage, okay, like we are using. So here, it's not very obvious, but if I change the number 3 by 5, I'm getting 1. Why is that? Because percentage sign in JavaScript is the modulus operator, and the job of the modulus operator to pick up the remainder from a division. So because when we divide the 5 by 4, what we will get is 1. So this is our remainder, and that's why we are seeing 1 here, number 1 in the console here. Okay, this is modulus operator is going to be used a lot in logic creation. I suggest you to learn this one really good if you don't know it already. And the other operators out there you might be seeing and not familiar, maybe sometimes you are going to see this plus plus, like maybe we will have a variable here, year plus plus, or year minus minus, right? So what does it mean actually? Take the year variable and reduce by subtract 1. So instead of writing year is equal to year minus 1, we use this operator here, minus minus. Or plus plus is basically the same thing. We are adding up 1 to the year and reassigning the value. So incrementing the year's value by 1, or reducing the year's value by 1. Instead of doing again the reassignment operator and the plus 1 or minus 1, we just go here plus plus. okay? The other operator we need to pay attention is the bigger than, smaller than, the comparisons, right? Well, it sounds simple, but let's pay attention to one thing here. Let's create a variable and call it age and 23. And if I console.log age larger than 18, what I'm going to see is from the line 18 is basically nothing. Here is not defined. Here we are getting an error. So what I get is true, right? Because 23 is larger than 18, which makes sense, but please pay attention. The comparison is returning. Comparison operator returns a Boolean. And in the future, the dots is going to connect specifically in if-else statement. And if we want to check also the age is equal to that number, we can place the equality here after the bigger than or smaller than sign. And now let's see how we can check if two quantity is equal in JavaScript. Well, one equality sign is reserved for assignment operations, right? So we cannot use that. We have the double equality and triple equality in JavaScript in order to see if the two quantities in the left side and the right side of the equation are equal to each other. So basically, let's just write like check if the 2 equal to 2. I begin with the double equality and basically I just do that. And you can all now imagine and guess that if I console.log that, I will get a Boolean because equality is also the comparison. So it will return probably true. And we all agree, yeah, that the number 2 is equal to 2. And that's true. Okay. All looks good. But let's do the trick and convert one of the numbers into a string. So basically anything, any number can be converted into a string by placing it inside of the quotation marks. Double or single quotation mark doesn't matter. So now let's begin with checking the type of the number. So that I claimed, I just return into converted into a string. So type of, and that's what is the type of that? It's a string. You see script JS22 line 22 that console is console.logging and telling us, giving us information about the 2 inside of the quotation mark is a string. So the type is different. But even if the type is different, the number 2 still seems like equal to string 2, which is, you can guess that it is wrong because if that is going to be returning true, it can mess up the things in your code if you cannot recognize a number as a number, because the other operators, the mathematical operators, is not going to behave the same, and then you will get a bug out of that. That's why it's more desirable if you use the triple equality sign, which is also called as the strict equality. And instead of 2, we will have 3 equality. Now we are going to get a false. The strict equality sign cares about the types. So now we are going to get the false because of that. So we have 2 ways of comparing if 2 quantity are equal to each other or not. Double equality or the triple equality. And the triple equality is the strict equality. And most of the time, I suggest you to use the triple equality sign. So with that, we cover the most important operators as well. And I hope all is clear. Now let's move on to something else. Okay, we are covered the operators and the equality and comparison. So now that's out of the way, that's out of the way. Okay, now we can start speaking about how to take decisions. Okay, taking decisions. What do you think of when I say taking decisions? Like in our daily life, we take decisions all the time, right? The most basic decision we will take in a rainy, cold day is if we are going outside to check the weather and decide if we will have the umbrella or not, right? If it is raining, yes, is it raining? Okay. And then take the umbrella. This is a decision making. And when we are using the computers, the reason we are using computers is it is for not just to store the data. Of course, we want to write a functioning code. And the most important part of writing a functional code is to have a logical flow in the code. And most important step to build that is to create a correct if and else, a decision-taking steps. So in computer, to define such decision making, we are using the if and else statement. So how does it work? Now let's write a basic if and else. I'm just gonna go and let's begin with just syntax, okay? Like when we are defining the functions and arrays and everything, and actually we already defined the variables, right? Like, so what was the case? We had a keyword and we have a formula, and it's the syntax. So first, when you are learning a language, you got to ask to yourself, what is the concept? And now how this language is writing this concept, that is the syntax. So you see, we have the if, this is the keyword, and then we must have a parentheses and then curly parentheses, right? So the curly parentheses are the code block. So the code goes here. And the parentheses in the if statement should have something that will be converted, that can be converted into a Boolean. Remember, we define a Boolean data type. That's why we have a Boolean data type. So that way, JavaScript can recognize it and use it. And where we are using it, inside of the if statement. So I'm just going to use the Boolean itself here. I go by true. We can do that. And now let's write here a code. Console.log. I am inside of the if block. Okay, my autopilot suggested I listen to him. And voila, I am seeing in the code line 28 is executed. I will just go there and change the true to the false. What happened? It disappeared, so it's not executing. So how the if statement works? We will have in the parentheses something, a Boolean. And if the Boolean expression here is returning true, then the code you are going to write inside of the curly parentheses will be executed. In our case, it is the console.log simply printing something to this console. It is executing or not, okay? But that is not the only thing, because it can be a rainy day or not, right? Like two possibilities in the simplistic form of the decision making. So in this case, if not raining, we should have another block we want to execute. And this another block we want to execute is introduced via the else keyword. So if the parentheses inside of the if the parentheses in the if statement returns false, then the code block here, if we have an else statement, this is the code block that will be executed. So now, although we have a false, we can still get executed this code here, okay? Now, let's go one step further. Instead of just writing the Boolean values like that, let's write something that can be converted into a Boolean. Remember, the comparison operator was returning a Boolean, and I told you to pay attention there because that will make sense. Now, let's go and write. I already defined an age variable in line 20, and I put it here just like so. And just change the printing statement. You can take a driving test. Okay, so now, of course, because age is 23 and it's bigger than 18, it will return a true, and that's why I can cancel that log now. And if I go and change the age to 5, obviously, you are too young. So we are gonna just cancel that Dr. Else. You are too young to drive. Okay. So that's in the most simplistic form, that's how the if and else is working in JavaScript. I hope that makes sense. Okay. We can add up to the if else by adding else if statement if we have more than one options. I will show you in the future why we are working on some exercise. Now try to grasp that if and else in the most simplest form for now. Okay. So let's see. Is the next stop. Let's speak about, since we already speak about if and else, right? Let's speak about Truthy and Falsy, okay? Truthy and Falsy values in JavaScript. What are the Truthy and Falsy values in JavaScript? Well, the Falsy values, we have 0, empty string, and undefined, null, and none. And the Truthy values is basically all values that are not falsy. Okay. Now you might be asking yourself, what are those if you never heard them before? Well, those values are, when we look at them, they are not true or false. They are not Booleans. But if you put them in an environment that can be evaluated as a Boolean, so they have the potential of the converting into falsy or truthy. So what I mean by that? Now let's go and clean up the if statement here. The age is larger or equal to 18. And let's just go and simply put there 0. What you're going to see in the console, you are too young to drive. So what happened is, it seems like JavaScript didn't do anything about that first code block. It didn't execute it. It skipped it and it just moved on to the else. When this is happening, this happens if the parentheses, the statement inside of the parentheses return false. And it looks like, so the 0 is returning false. Why? It says falsy value. And the same thing is going to happen instead of 0 if I was putting here just an empty string. Just adding the quotation mark means that it's an empty string, basically. We are still getting, you are too young to drive. Okay. So that falsy values are going to be evaluated as a false if you put them in an environment that will eventually evaluate them. And what about the truthy values? Everything except those 5 basically. So if we go here and instead of empty string, we just write a name, okay? What we will get is the first statement because the Joe is going to be evaluated as true. And any numbers, the same thing. I just, instead of 0, if I just go by 7, I will get again the first block executed. Now, as the next thing, let's speak about logical operators, okay? So those are and, or, and not. Now, and. Let's just use the console.log. And go by true and true. What we get in script.js 42 is again true. So logical operators is basically takes the left hand side of the the boolean in the left hand side and the boolean in the right side and just give us an evaluated values. An AND operator is going to return true if only both the left side and the right side of the operator has the true value. What if I just convert the true to the false here? What we get is false, okay? So that's how AND operator works. If we want to get true, both sides needs to be true. If one of them is going to be false, we are going to get false. And if I just go and place exclamation mark to the false statement, what I'm getting? True. So what the exclamation mark is doing here is it is actually, if you use it like so, it's called flipping operator. So it's going to flip your Boolean into the opposite. Right now, our false on the right side is evaluated as true because the flipping operator is switch it to the true, okay? Now let's speak about the OR operator. And now let's do the same true false thing with the OR. So this sign here is the AND operator and this one is the OR operator, okay? Well, we got true from line 44 because that's how the OR operator evaluates the logical statements. In order to return true in OR operator, it is enough one of them is going to be true. It doesn't matter if one of them is false, okay? This is and OR, and basically the exclamation mark is here is our not. Okay, but what I meant by the not operator is this exclamation mark basically. Now, what we are getting in line 46 is the true is flipped to the false. Okay, I hope that part is clear too. Now, let's continue with the switch statement. Well, most of the time, it's very similar to the if and else. And most of the time you are going to use the if and else statement, but once in a while you will need the switch statement. One of the use case of the switch statement can be some kind of something like this. So as you see here, we are defined a variable Monday, and we are using the switch keyword. And then we have the parentheses in the most simplest way, okay? Again, and the curly parentheses, just like in the if statement, right? Like remember in the if statement, we had the if and then the parentheses and the curly parentheses. So basically the same goes here. But inside of the curly parentheses, we have some case keyword and then break. So basically what it says is if the day is Monday, okay, the code here going to be executed. And then we have the break because we don't want the rest of the code to be executed. We want to break these cases, okay? And then we have the default statement if none of those stations are there. So basically, if the day is Tuesday, we are going to get this code executed. If the day is Wednesday, we will get this one. And if the day is not equal to none of the above, then let's say if it is Sunday, maybe, right? Instead of Monday, if it is Sunday, we will get not a valid day, as you see here, okay? So let's go by Wednesday, and today is Wednesday. Okay, so I hope all the concepts were clear to you. You have a better understanding, and I will continue with JavaScript Fundamentals 2, okay? Those are just the first part. In the JavaScript Fundamentals 2, you are going to learn what is a function, how to write a JavaScript function, and arrays, objects, and of course, the for loop. Hope to see you in the next video.